I'm born in Missouri, early childhood in the rural Ozarks, and then grew up mostly in Washington State. Then, but I actually went to University of Arkansas, and that's where I met my wife. We actually have a place there, and so that's part of Arkansas, sort of my adopted home. I'm in LA most of the time, but that's not to give you the whole life story. Oh, well, that's interesting. Like, all I know is I can't speak, because I'm like, my roots hit in the Ozarks, but because I grew up in this like abandoned mining town out in Washington State, I feel like I can't generalize about the Ozarks. So I can only speak about my family experience. And my family experience is, we didn't talk about emotions. We weren't like openly affectionate, physically or verbally. And so in a weird way, music, movies, art kind of became a language through which I kind of emotionally navigated the world. So, I don't think I can extrapolate on like the Ozarks on that. That might be unique to my own family, or maybe it's a symptom of rural folk in the area.
Circle back and see if I.
Okay.
I would like to kind of talk about casting.
Sure.
Especially Paul Walter Hauser.
Yeah.
Because he's publicly said that no production should hire him if they're not comfortable with his professional wrestling background.
Oh, yeah.
So what made you kind of take the risk, knowing that he could probably show up any given Sunday with a serious?
Oh, well, I mean, like, that's a no-brainer. I mean, Paul's like one of my favorite actors. Also, I love pro wrestling. Like, I went and saw me and my sons also, I have teenage sons, they also love pro wrestling. My 15-year-old's actually actively training with a WWE Hall of Famer to become a pro wrestler. Like, we are like kind of hardcore wrestling fans. We went and seen Paul dive off of ladders through tables at an indie show in Los Angeles a few months ago, and in a few months we're going to see him again. Yeah, that's just him being a wrestler is just an added benefit. It just gives us something to talk about, and like, yeah, it's just par for the course.
Like bond over wrestling?
Oh, sure, yeah, totally, yeah. I mean, Paul and I, like, if we weren't working together and we just crossed paths like in a bar or something, like we'd be easy buddies. Like, I think we like talking about movies, we like talking about music, like talking about pro wrestling. We have a lot of similar overlap there. So yeah, no, that's a no-brainer. Yeah.
What is Americana about? Why is it perfect for this festival?
Yeah, I mean, Americana it's a weird movie. It's an ensemble neo-Western crime film set in South Dakota, and it's about a whole group of characters who all feel, for different reasons, out of place in the New West. And so there's this Native American artifact that falls on the black market. All these different characters, and we get to learn them. Some of them, like Penny Jo, who's played by Sydney Sweeney, is a small town diner waitress with a stammer who wants to go to Nashville to become the next Dolly Parton. But she can't afford to move there, so she wants to get from money. There's another character played by Zahn McClarnon, who's a member of a Lakota People's Army. He wants to get it to bring it back to its rightful home. And then there's a whole range of people. So we meet all these people, get to see what their lives are like in modern day South Dakota, and then we kind of put them on a collision course. I think this is where I've most wanted this movie to play, partly because of my connection to Arkansas. It's really my adopted home. It's where, hopefully within the next 5 years, once my sons finish high school, my wife and I hopefully move to Fayetteville. We have a place in Fayetteville, be there pretty much full time. But also I feel like I'm of the, I'm a small town guy. I'm not a slick Hollywood, New York type of guy. And I think there's an overlooked perspective of just like, you can set a lot of interesting stories in quote unquote flyover America without it being about opioids or about, some white collar professional wandering into the Ozarks or something like that. I mean, it's a good show, but like I wanted just to set an interesting story in a part of America where Hollywood isn't putting its spotlight very much, and so it feels like we premiered at South by Southwest in Austin. We're playing here, like that's the kind of that's like my ideal audience in a lot of ways. So that's why I feel like this is a good place for it.
Why are these kinds of film festivals so important to the independent film industry?
I think they're more and more important because the ecosystem of film really seems to obviously favor the big studio fare, and it's tough to get smaller kind of human scale movies and stories in theaters, and I think that's the best way to see movies. And so I think if you can make it to these festivals, you can build a word of mouth. It can be a way just for people to maybe have access to movies that if they go to the mall or the local Cineplex, they may not have access to, and they can find just rich, interesting stories and filmmakers that maybe otherwise they wouldn't find. So yeah, it's huge, I think, for just cinema in general. Another round, or are we?
Yeah, so you mentioned that you got your degree at the U of A.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you took from your time in Fayetteville or here in the South that you put inside your poetry or your television show?
Yeah. I mean, part of it, when I was here, I met my wife, and so like that's, I probably wouldn't be here if that didn't happen, and also like I did an MFA in poetry at University of Arkansas. And I really, met some really key peers, friends there. One of my fellow MFA students was Nick Pizzolatto, who did True Detective, and Nick was actually my conduit into doing this. I was, a poet academic starting a career writing professor job. Nick broke in. We'd talked about like how cool it would be to like do something like this. So I wrote some scripts before I started the professor job. He passed them along to his agents. This is like 15 years ago. And things worked out well for me, and I made the jump from academia to Hollywood, mostly in television writing. Would I have had the nerve to have done that or had a connection to do that if I hadn't met Nick at the University of Arkansas? Probably not. But also, I think just I gelled as an artist and a person here. I came here as a pretty immature guy, kind of a self-destructive idiot. Was a self-destructive idiot while I was here. It was a 4-year MFA program. I was hanging out with a lot of poets and writers who don't have the healthiest lifestyle. I was also in bands and part of the Fayetteville, Little Rock music scene, even though I'm not a very good musician. And thankfully I survived those 4 years of self-destructive behavior. But it just solidified for me that like a life in the arts, and just as an artist in whatever form was just like what I needed in my life. And it was great to do it in a place where, like people are doing it, like you're not in a band in Fayetteville or Little Rock because you think an agent is in the crowd and is going to sign you. You're doing it for the love of the game. And so I think that was really healthy for me as well.
How do you pick your projects?
Various, lots of different doors to different projects. I work mostly in TV. Sometimes in TV, so I was just a showrunner on a TV show called Poker Face with Natasha Lyonne. They needed somebody as a showrunner. I threw my hat in the ring and they hired me. Like that was that. Americana, I just went off on my own over a couple months. It had been percolating in my mind. I just went off and wrote it. Nobody asked me to. Actually, my reps recommended that I don't because they didn't think I'd get made when I told them the idea, and I'm kind of stubborn, so I did it anyway. And then we got it financed and made it. And so there's a huge range. But like if I'm writing something on my own, it's usually some kind of genre that I want to work in, and it's usually kind of macho, but I'm hoping to bring some kind of lyricism or soulfulness to it. And it usually has something to do with America or blue collar life. And but then if I come up with a character or a scene idea or something that I can't shake, I'll kind of like just let it gnaw at me until I can't stand it and I have to sit down and write it. And so that's a pet project, a personal project like Americana. That's how that came about.
So your process is just whatever you find interesting.
Whatever I find interesting, and whatever that will both pay the bills and be interesting, because I've got there's the art and there's the commerce of it. So like right now, Americana's coming out right now. Just wrapped season 2 of Poker Face, which seemed to do pretty well. But now I've got like 10 different projects that one I could maybe film in as soon as October if we get the one last casting thing in place, or it could never happen. Like that's just kind of the world. And then I'll be taking out a couple different TV shows to buyers within the next 3 months, and so maybe one of those goes. And then there's some, I may be rewriting a script for an action director, or sometimes I get hired to come in and do rewrites on an action movie that didn't quite turn out right when they filmed it, but they want to do reshoots for it, and so they'll hire me to come in and write new scenes for it. So it's there's that, and those in of themselves can be rewarding, but they also pay the bills, but they also kind of buy me the space to do something like Americana, where it's not maybe as lucrative financially to me as some of the other work, but it's really kind of what I got into this to do.
So I took a screenwriting class in college, and one of the things that they taught us is that the best way to write a movie is to let the characters drive the plot. Mm-hmm. Is that something that rings true to you in a movie like Americana?
I think so. Yeah. Like I've never taken a creative screenwriting class for me, so like a lot of it was trial and error. Like I kind of broke in and got hired on a TV show probably before I was ready, and so then I just try to keep myself going. But yeah, like a lot of times, like a clever plot doesn't mean anything if you don't care about the characters or why they're doing it. And so I try to, often when something's percolating, I'll often have a genre in mind, like maybe, I'm gonna do a Western, or I wanna do a crime film or a heist film. When you decide to do a genre, or at least for me, like that's almost like half the work. It's like, okay, there's a certain set of expectations. Then it's like, okay, can I come up with some interesting characters that I think I can write well and I haven't seen? And I'll I'll put playlists together, and I'll just walk around until these characters until I start seeing scenes in my brain, and these characters start talking to each other, and I get a sense of how they talk and how they move. And then I start doing it, and then in a weird way, just as your instructor, I think, correctly instructed, they start telling you what the story should be, and they start by what they want and the obstacles in front of them. They start driving the story as opposed to just being dropped in and moved around like chess pieces.
So building onto that a little bit,
Yeah.
Inspiration, just like ideas.
Yeah.
What are like some, I guess, sources? Yeah, creativity is
Yeah.
a funky thing.
Yeah, no, it totally is.
What are like some of your where do some of your ideas come from?
Often it's some kind of combination of, like I watch a lot of movies, watch a lot of old movies, from 70s and earlier primarily. And often I'll watch something like, say, White Lightning with Burt Reynolds. And I'm just like, well, shit, I miss that kind of movie. Why don't I do some kind of like car movie in the South? But, probably set in the present day, because it's tougher to get a period thing going. And then I'll start thinking, well then like, what in my life that I actually have, either characters or elements of life. Like I'm playing around now with a version of a car culture crime film set in around Fort Smith, and so there's a little bit there of like taking some inspiration from usually movies, but sometimes novels that I really love, and then things I know from my own life, and seeing how I can combine them together. And sometimes things just kind of pop into my head, and
It's kind of the same as like older horror movies.
Yeah.
Likes those.
Yeah. There's something to be said about it. Yeah, old school stuff. Yeah.
I like the White Lightning kind of name drop, because I think part of that was shot in Arkansas.
It's shot in Arkansas. It looks amazing, and it's a cool movie.
That was before Smoking the Band and all that stuff.
Yeah. So I think to be a nerd, I think that's 1973. It was White Lightning, and I think Smoking the Bandit was 1977. So yeah, so like
Sounds right.
it caught Burt Reynolds. He was just coming out of Deliverance, and he was finally kind of becoming a little bit of a star, but he wasn't all the way into like Smoking the Bandit, winking at the camera. And so it was this cool spot where you still, because he kind of came up as like almost like a new Brando type of guy, and then he was in TV a lot. Anyways, and so it caught him at a really cool time. Like he's got like the classic Burt Reynolds laugh, but he's still like, he's really going for it too in a really cool way. It's a fantastic movie.
Underappreciated actor, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so my actual question.
Yeah.
So you like you said, like most of your work has been in television.
Yeah.
And this is your first feature film. Was that transition from television to feature? Was it seamless? Was there?
I mean, this is my first time to direct. You know, so it's a different role. That said, kind of everything I did as a director in Americana, I did some version of as a writer, producer, or showrunner in TV. So it wasn't like bewildering. You know, it's very, very important to prep. It's very, very important to get everybody on the same page. Casting is everything. You know, make sure the script works. Make sure you're, you know, like, not like cross your fingers, but that you actually believe in the scenes. Being on set, how to talk with actors. I think I kind of developed that I didn't have to talk that much. You know, I don't know if it's because my academic background, as you're probably seeing, I can hold court for too long. You know, I try to keep that in minimal on set. 1 or 2 sentences is plenty, and then I had plenty of room in post production, so I knew that process. So like the actual like day-to-day directing was strangely fairly seamless. I think I also got lucky with a very cool cast and a very cool crew. Like there was no nightmares, no even like borderline difficult people to be found anywhere. So that helped. The actual process of getting a movie made and then distributed in film is a lot more in TV. Like if you're going in production, you already know where it's going to be broadcast. You know, you have a set amount. Like there's certain things in place. There's only so many TV studios. There's only so many networks, channels, or streamers. And so if you take a project out and you get all no's, you're just like, well, that's kind of dead. Move on to the next thing. Film, you can live in this land of maybe for a decade. And so that's different. And then also when you make it, you're not guaranteed immediate distribution. You know, as like Americana premiered at South by Southwest in 2023. We're in the middle of making a deal with Lionsgate's our distributor, and our financier, I mean, it's like public knowledge, they filed for bankruptcy. And so we were tied up in court for 1.5 years. It's just, that doesn't really happen in television, or at least it doesn't as much. In film, it's not all that unordinary for there to be a long process up to the green light, and then sometimes a little bit of a longer process to actually get out into the world. So that is different.
So like from like conception of the idea to today, how long is that?
Oh, I think I had the first, I went back into my archives, and I think the first inkling of this idea, I put pen to paper in 2018, 7 years ago. Wrote out the first draft in 2019. I think got financing for it in 2021, filmed it in 2022, premiered in 2023, and then now out in the world in 2025. Yeah. So like, yeah, a little bit of a march. Yeah. It's not for the weak, you know, weak-spirited. You know, it's a tough line of work, or it can be. You know, you get your heart stomped on a lot, so you just have to, you know, price of admission. It's fine. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Been pretty busy this year.
Yeah.
Do you like the pace?
I mean, I do, but I also like I've been borderline. So like television production. So like Americana's coming out now, but I kind of wrapped up work on that a bit ago. Like a little bit of post production stuff like last year. Like we did season 2 of Poker Face. Did 6 months in the writer's room, coming up with the scripts and everything like that. That's not so bad. Some pressure. Production itself was a body and mind and soul breaking ordeal. It's like, you know, I mean, it's not like working as a logger, I don't want to overdo it, but it was a lot. It's cool to have two things coming out in the same year. That said, like coming out of production on Poker Face, like I mean I aged like a couple of years, and just in terms of I could not sustain that pace. It's been good for me to return to the empty page and just write in solitude for a little while. Yeah. That said, it's really nice to have a couple of things out in the world. That's not always every year like that. You know.
So is it nice to come to this film festival
Some-
to chill you out a little bit?
100%. This is amazing. I've been looking forward to. I was hoping to have some kind of premiere here. This was like the ideal. This is like the screening of the movie. Ever since the South by Southwest premiere, I've been hoping to have some kind of screening here in Arkansas and have it here at ACS is kind of perfect. Yeah.
Guys, about 5 minutes.
What message do you want to get across to all the students that are going to be having a short film screened at the Friday?
Oh, I mean, just that like. It's tough. It's tough. I think it's worth it. Like, you know, like it's more, I mean, I definitely feel like for me, it's worth it. Like I'm much more artistically, like I was a poet. I like this more than poetry. I was like a critic. I wrote like a book about Johnny Cash. I like this much more than doing that. I was in bands. Bands was a lot of fun, but I wasn't very good at it. Like this is fantastic. But that said, it's like super competitive. It's super tough. And kind of the best way, I think, like if you have peers that are also at the same level, you're into their work and they're into your work, like I think that's like almost, that's what'll keep you going or keep you afloat when because things will inevitably hit rough patches. Like it's inevitably just a little bit of a dog eat dog kind of line of creativity.
Is there anything else that you'd like to say that we didn't ask you?
It's hard to imagine to think. Not popping off my head. Yeah.
Which I haven't seen the movie yet. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that later tonight. But based on the trailer, it looks like it has like no homage to like maybe the Coen Brothers, maybe a little bit of Sam Peckinpah.
Yeah.
What were like the specific cinematic influences for Americana?
Yeah. So I mean, the one movie that I asked everybody on the crew to watch was Steven Spielberg's The Sugarland Express, which I love, Texas-based, but just the vibe, the general look of it. I asked Sydney Sweeney to watch Coal Miner's Daughter, a Sissy Spacek's performance, just a little bit of the spirit there. Asked Paul Walter Hauser to watch Tender Mercies of Robert Duvall, just to kind of get the heart of that character. Didn't want them to do impersonations or tributes to him, but just like, this is what I see of their inner, like capture something of their inner life or the tone I want you guys to go for. I asked my cinematographer, Nigel Block, Sugarland Express, actually White Lightning, Two-Lane Blacktop, Paris, Texas, and Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid by Sam Peckinpah. That's actually my favorite Western. And then my favorite director is Howard Hawks. And so, hopefully get a little bit of Rio Bravo. Like,
Yeah, like that. Almost all those were like deep Southern films.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, like the ones you mentioned, like really deep Southern films.
Yeah, I guess so. But I guess it's almost more like, because I don't even think of myself as a Southern guy. I'm just a small town guy. But I think that's part of it. I mean, I could throw Fargo in there. Like Fargo is not, but it has that same mix of just, not too many people around. It's in a genre and it's got really defined characters and kind of violence and humor and hopefully a little bit of real emotion all kind of are part of the same fabric. That's kind of the vibe I'm going for. Also, like Robert Alt, if I was to have if you ask for a question, you just ask me my favorite directors and I'll just talk on. If I was to make a Mount Rushmore of filmmakers, Robert Altman would be on it. So yeah, that's also in my head all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, cool.